Hi guys, I'm Michelle, Chartered Accountant, co-founder and director of Money Saving Move, and essentially Money Saving Move is a new accounting and advisory practice based in Auckland. We do work with clients across the whole country, so if you're not in Auckland, you can still work with us. And our key point of difference is that we keep things simple because while we're still very much new, I do come with a lot of experience. So used to do reporting and performance in some of New Zealand's largest entities, such as Kāinga Ora, Department of Corrections, and the whole lot, and actually started my career as an external auditor. So obviously, I have decided to jump on the bandwagon, like everybody else, and talk about AI, but in a way that is not trying to sell you at all. More talking about it from the lens of an accountant. So you might think, how did you get to this point where you love everything about AI? Well, not love, where you're interested in things about AI. So last year, I attended a conference in Bali on all things AI. And this conference was quite interesting because it was marketed more for people that work in like digital marketing, tech, and health type people. So as a finance person, I kind of felt a little bit out of place, but hey, who cares? And some of the key things that sort of surprised me was that one of the speakers was coming from Google, and he had said he spent 7 years at Google, and all of a sudden the pace of change that was happening at Google over the last 6 months was so rapid, and in those 7 years it was never like that. It used to take them like 3 years to introduce new things. So obviously AI is a massive tool. Lots of billions of dollars is being put into this sort of stuff. And I think one of the key things that was quite interesting about my time in Bali is that health professionals were actually quite high up there. So yeah, that's something that's worth noting. Obviously, like every conference, you leave excited and overwhelmed. Like, how am I going to use any of this information when I go back home? So obviously, as you do, I did some thinking for the last almost 6 months now. And I thought I'd just start with some stats of what's happening. And obviously, these stats are as of 2025, and they're the OECD numbers because numbers keep changing every day. So as of like last year, around 700 million plus people globally were using ChatGPT. And I'm pretty sure now it will be a lot more because everybody is using Claude as well. And 10% of the world's adult population have adopted ChatGPT or some sort of like an AI tool in under 3 years, which is actually quite insane if you think about it. And the part where it started getting a bit interesting was that larger firms are 3 times more likely to use AI than small, medium-sized businesses. So all of a sudden, there's like this gap, I guess, capability gap that is slowly happening between larger firms and smaller ones. So yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. And so I thought, is price the biggest issue with AI? Because obviously, when you think about it from a context of a small business where costs are everything, if you're subscribing to like 5 different tools and they all have monthly subscriptions and now they all have like credit systems and etc., you would think that cost is going to be a bigger thing. However, I was completely wrong because the more and more I started thinking about AI from a governance and business owner, business leader perspective, all of a sudden the price factor is not that much. You can oversubscribe and stuff like that, but you're not really sleeping there thinking about, oh, have I made the gains based on that $30 subscription that I paid? But what's actually happening is that there is an unknown exposure of your business adopting these AI tools. particularly if you're a small business owner, right? Because if you think about it, when you recruit a new employee into your team, you will, first of all, think quite deeply about why you need the employee. You are going to draft a job description. You are going to advertise. You're going to shortlist people, interview them, do background checks, reference checks. Like, you are going to do so much to get that employee from an idea of, I want to get an employee, to somebody actually eventually coming in to work for you. And similarly, you do that if you're in construction, you do the same if you're going to buy a van or whatever. However, where it becomes interesting is that when small businesses are adopting AI, they are literally doing it on the fly. They will just go onto App Store, boom, download, create an account, billing, and woo, here you go. They start using it. Zero governance inside, zero thinking, what exactly are we doing this for? So, as somebody who has used ChatGPT for like my personal life and stuff, like, no joke, last year I did get an email from ChatGPT that I was one of like the top 2% users. You know what? That was quite disturbing. But anyway, one of the key things that I learned from that experience is that more output does not necessarily mean better productivity. As a business advisor, child accountant, and stuff, I often get clients sending me stuff that I know they have just whipped up using an AI tool. And while it might look amazing and polished, it doesn't necessarily mean there's substance there. So that's the same thing that I find with a lot of AI tools and stuff, is that yes, 73% of ChatGPT usage is non-related. 40% of it is work related, but actually just basic stuff where it's just like editing, that kind of thing. And it doesn't necessarily mean that what you're producing is better. It just means you're producing more. And I think the other key thing that business owners don't even think about, particularly small ones, is just it's the data you're sharing. You see, with all these AI tools, you have to pump in some data. Like, AI works when you feed it information. And so the question you often have unanswered is, do you know where the data goes and who benefits from it? Because if you look offshore, like in America and stuff, like OpenAI has had so many different lawsuits because of, utilizing information, training all these models and stuff like that. So that's also another risk of using AI. It's just around the data sharing. Like, if you're going to be uploading information in there, are you okay anyone using it? Are you okay anyone looking at it and stuff like that? So this one is going to be a interesting space to keep watching, because when I was just doing a little bit of digging, like the OECD report even reported that last year 32% of SMEs experienced a security breach, which was double from what it was in 2024. So I will be quite interested to see what it's going to be for 2026. And so obviously, I don't think that AI is a problem that should just be thought about by small businesses. I actually think it is a everybody problem. Business owners need to think about the tools that they're integrating and think of it more from like a governance perspective, as well as from like exposure and compliance and capability. Employees, if you're working in like a larger organization, you also just have to think about it before you pump things in there. And also, like, I think from an employer's perspective, some of the gains that you would get from like your team members brainstorming together and thinking about things, and junior employees kind of like shadowing senior ones, asking questions, is probably going to be an area that you have to start to be really creative on how you can still have that team togetherness in the world of AI. And also, I think as well, like, if you're a young entrepreneur, like, yes, it might sound great to develop an app and etc., but you probably need to think about having skills that are going to last some of these changes, because if you think about it, if these big companies are spending billions, it's only a matter of time until they get to the app that you're developing and do something that will be swallowed by everybody who's already on these platforms. And obviously it's great to talk about all this global stuff that's happening, and yeah, but the thing is, how does it relate to the New Zealand picture? So in New Zealand, I have looked through the KPMG reports, I have looked through like MB website and stuff like that. And essentially the key thing that came through like a KPMG study was that 23% of New Zealanders believe current AI safeguards are sufficient. However, where it becomes very New Zealand is that 81% believe AI regulation is required. So that is a massive majority that understand that, yes, we're getting all these gains, but we need to make sure we're doing it in an ethical and safe and sufficient way. And so while there isn't really stuff out there yet, purely standalone to say AI policy is blah, 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 MBIE has sort of like a responsible AI governance guidance type stuff that you can look at. And also, like, I think if you're like a small business and you're quite curious about this stuff, you can definitely look through like other countries' equivalents. Like the UK has an entire AI hub that they use, and yeah, so there's still some stuff there. And I think one of the key things that I absolutely love about AI is this thing that an amazing finance leader with 27 years experience and an Oxford Masters in AI strategy has said, which is something that I have decided to also inherit and start saying, is that AI only matters when it creates value. And that the focus should always be on, like revenue, margins, cash, risk exposure, not just technology for technology's sake. And so my key things is that if you're adopting AI in your business, you need to think about your data, because it is literally a garbage in, garbage out type thing. And the second thing is that this won't necessarily affect people in New Zealand because everybody has access to computers and stuff like that. But if you're in a country that doesn't necessarily have access to computers, there's going to be like another whole gap that we're creating, and all these other disadvantages that we're going to create as well. And I think the third one, which is something that was constantly being discussed at the conference I went to in Bali, it was that you still need people. Like, people are critical to everything. So while you are doing whatever you're doing with AI, make sure you don't leave people behind. And if you forget everything I've said in this whole session or discussion, 5 key things that you can do right now, which is like this week, today, tomorrow, or whatever, is audit your AI tools. Just have a list of all the tools you use, why you use them, and sort of start having like use cases on all of these, and think about the way you use them. If at some point there is some regulation, are you following the rules? And then the second one, which I know that all of us absolutely hate, is read the terms and conditions. And with some of these models, if you read and understand them, you actually know that there is a way that you can stop it from training. You can stop OpenAI and all of them from using your data to train models. And I think another key one is just create some sort of an AI policy, even just a one page of this is what we use, this is how we use this is what we use it for, and this is what we don't do. And also, like, this one is quite key. Just ask yourself the value question. Like, what problem are you trying to solve? And is there an AI tool that can help you? Don't just get an AI tool and then panic, because I have been there and it is just a waste of everybody's time. You might think you're productive, but you actually. And yeah, it kind of leads into the last one. Get your governance house in order. Not AI amplifies what already exists. If your data is messy, AI is going to be messy. And obviously, AI is moving into many directions. And I guess the question isn't really whether AI is going to do whatever. It's, are you set up well so that when AI does whatever it does, your business is not left behind? And obviously, I am no AI expert whatsoever. I am just somebody who is very much interested in AI from a governance perspective and an accounting perspective, because I think that at the end of the day, all of these things do have financial implications. I do think you need to speak to somebody who understands this stuff. You can definitely get in touch with MSM if you want me to look at your stuff as well from a AI readiness perspective. And of course, everything I have said has come from somewhere. Those are some of the things that I've had a look at to kind of back what I'm saying. Hope you enjoyed.